Good afternoon, everybody. This is Purple Update Live. I am your host, Joe Johnson, owner of purplePTSD.com, VikingsTerritory.com, and a little site called PurpleTerritoryRadio.com. It is Friday, which is, if you have been around the show for a couple weeks, is actually Open Line Friday, which means I'm going to turn the fan off first and foremost. And secondly, we tend to focus more on your questions or comments. There's not a whole lot new from today to yesterday outside of the fact that neither Dalvin Cook nor Alexander Mattison ended up practicing again today. So it's looking like it's going to be Boone time yet again Monday night. I got a ton of questions at the liquor store last night in regards to my thoughts on that. A lot of people seem to think that Madison was going to be playing either because they didn't know that he'd been out, or they assumed that he'd be ready to go. Yeah, I mean, hot take here. Obviously, I would love to have them both play. I would have especially loved to see Madison with a full game's workload to see what he'd be able to do on this offense, because he is putting together quite the rookie year. I really like him. I don't think he'll be here after his rookie contract expires unless Dalvin Cook continues to amass injuries and just can't really make it. He's essentially, he does a lot of the exact same things that Cook does. He's almost a mirror image of him. He's a top 5 player in regards to big play percentages. So the last time I looked, he was almost 18% of the time that he touches the rock, he gets a 10-yard gain or more. That's amazing. I mean, a lot of that, I mean, you could say, I mean, that's at least partially due to the change of pace aspect and maybe teams not expecting him to do this or that. But that's extremely hard to do in the NFL, especially as a rookie. So I think the Vikings did an amazing job picking him up out of Boise State, and they'll be lucky to have him. There was an article, I think, on Viking Age today saying that Dalvin Cook might be out for the remainder of the season. I think he meant the regular season. He didn't really add any new, and I'm not crapping on the article, but he didn't really add anything new to what we already know, just that he's out for Monday, most likely, even though Zimmer pushed back on that a little bit in the media yesterday, which to me says that somebody leaked something they weren't supposed to, and Zimmer wanted to at least have the Packers think that Dalvin will play Monday night for preparation and subterfuge reasons. But personally, I don't think they'll need him Monday night. I don't think the Packers are that good. I do think the Vikings are going to win, and they're going to win by double digits. I've been saying that for a really long time. So we will see, but I'm going to put that out there. If they, Monday night, I got them winning by 14 points. So we'll see if that ends up happening. I've written a lot of articles about Aaron Rodgers and where he's at in his career, and I think that I talked about this yesterday, so I'll just summarize it if you weren't here yesterday. But I think that a lot of people in Packers land, whether it's fans or people in the media, are coming around to the idea that, and I'm not saying Mike McCarthy was a great coach. I think that he was a mediocre coach who really got where he was because of how good Rodgers is or was. But the last 4 or 5 seasons, things have just been getting worse and worse. Rodgers' output has been nowhere near what it used to be in his prime from like 2009 to 2014, and a lot of that blame was placed on McCarthy and Ted Thompson for not bringing in more talent around him, for squandering this gigantic opportunity. Between Rodgers and Favre, 2 of the best quarterbacks ever, they have 2 Super Bowls, which is 2 more than we have. They obviously have more Super Bowls than that in general, but it's really sort of amazing that that's all they've had, and so a lot of people pointed to, again, McCarthy. And I think some people are coming around to the fact that Rodgers just isn't playing at the same level that he was. I responded to a few of the comments because the article that I wrote, which was about what I'm talking about right now, uh, was on Bleacher Report, and there was a lot of comments from people saying, "Well, you lost to the Packers, so that must mean what?" You know, by that logic, I said, Matt Moore is the best quarterback ever, or at least, you know, better than or as good as Aaron Rodgers. Wins and losses aren't necessarily always solely tied to quarterback performance. And here's the thing, Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback in the league at one point. And so for him to play at even 80% of that is still really good. It's just not the same level. And that's the argument that I'm making. And at this point, you can say they don't have any quarterback depth and this and that, and it's going to be hard for them to slowly build out of this no free agent philosophy that they had with Ted Thompson. So maybe, first year is the best time to analyze this in the LaFleur administration. But I wasn't saying Aaron Rodgers is trash. I was saying Aaron Rodgers isn't Aaron Rodgers anymore. And by Aaron Rodgers, the second one, I'm saying he's no longer this infallible God's gift to football. He holds onto the ball way too long. He makes weird decisions. He by all intents and purposes is hard to get along with. And so the argument that, okay, well, they beat the Vikings doesn't mean that it doesn't disprove anything. A lot of people, I guess, part of doing this for a living is you don't want to engage with fans who are negative because you don't want to come off as the guy who is like, hey, thanks for reading my article, asshole. Like, it just doesn't seem right. It's not professional. But sometimes it's a little aggravating that people read the headline and then draw conclusions from that headline and then comment very in depth about an article that they didn't read. Headline skimmers is what a lot of us call them, at least in our network. And then there's people that don't even read the headline and then just want to go off on whatever. But again, the point of the article was that people in Packers media are kind of coming around to what I said in week 2, which was that Aaron Rodgers isn't Aaron Rodgers anymore. And at that time, I got a lot of hate, a little bit different kind of hate, Packers fan hate, obviously, or people that are Packers fans pretending to be Vikings fans, which is always fun. But again, the point is that, yeah, Rodgers at 75-80% is still a good quarterback, but he's not the same dude. And the fact that, I'm just going off of, first of all, what the Packers writer said in this article. The article before, I was talking about statistics. Since 2015, what are his statistics when compared to, MVP level Rodgers from like 2009 or 10 to 2014? And those numbers are starkly different. And if you want to look at wins and losses since they beat the Vikings earlier this season, you can also look at the difference between the wins and losses the Packers had in that era versus this one. And it's a stark difference. I mean, you can't argue that difference. And so, the fact that the Packers are the 22nd offense in the NFL, 7 spots behind the Bengals, is something worth noting. Sure, they are 11-3. We could talk about why that is. But all is not well in Green Bay, and I think that they're ooh, that's a nice stat. There's a lot of fire where there's smoke there, and I think that they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, and there's going to be just a lot of hell to pay there. I don't foresee this being a smooth offseason for the Packers. Maybe it will be, but I go back to the loss to the Chargers where Rodgers came out in the media and put everybody on his team on blast. It doesn't seem like an 11-3 team, which was a 2-loss team going now with a 3rd loss. I mean, you typically hear that from a team that's, 4-12 or something, not from a team that just lost its first game in a while. And clearly it didn't resonate because they lost a game, 2 of the 3 games in that 3-game span, starting with that one. So, yeah, it's just weird. It'd be like after, the Vikings won 4 or 5 games and they lost by a last-second field goal to the Chiefs, Kirk coming out and saying, like, we got to figure it out, man. Like, everyone running around Kansas City eating barbecue during the morning of the game, it's just championship level teams don't do that. Teams that don't have locker room issues don't do that. Maybe they address it in the locker room and they say, okay, well, we were out in LA, we got away from our core philosophy. We need to be better. We're a young defense. I get that. I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm a leader. We'll figure this out. We shouldn't have lost this game, so on and so forth. But to go to the media is a really big violation of team trust, and you only do that as a last straw. And maybe Rodgers felt that he had to do that because he was telling them, multiple times, we have to do better, be more professional. It's like Zimmer when he says things about players on the defense to the media, and there was that big kerfuffle with Rhett Ellison's dad, and the toxic leadership, quote unquote. And Zimmer brought in Chad Greenway after he had retired and said, how do I be a better head coach? And I've thought since then, the times that Zimmer has said something about a player in the media, he's done it not impulsively, but as part of like his typical span of behavior. Talk to the player. Have a leader from the, say it's a corner who's not doing something right, in a formation or something. You talk to him a few times, and you have the position coach talk to him. Then you have leaders from the team talk to him. And if he's still not getting it, then maybe you go to the media because the media is going to write about it, and that'll put additional pressure on him to fix what he's doing, assuming it's fixable, which I don't think Zimmer would go to the media unless he thought it was a fixable thing. And so, yeah, it just seems very strange to me. And I know that I write for the Vikings. I'm going to be biased regardless, even if I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Even when I'm sharing an article from Lombardi Ave, I'm being biased. I'm not ignorant of that, but I do find it odd that these guys are like, well, sorry that you picked him on your fantasy team and he's not doing, first of all, I'm in my fantasy championship, and I was riding with Matt Ryan all season, even though I switched that up and using Tannehill in the championship. So that's where I'm at with that. I was just a little frustrated by it. Packers fans get very upset. And I get that. I mean, I personally think the rivalry is one of the more fun aspects of doing this, of writing and as being a fan. I'm not one of those guys. I know there was a big push on Reddit a couple of years ago to be like, rivalries are gross. Let's not like get in these back and forths with Packers fans and getting a flame war. Like, I get like taking it too seriously and like a flame war at its worst definition, but I mean, football and sports in general are a tribal thing. We're all like, we're in Minnesota, and even though Wisconsin's probably the closest state to us in every way, shape, and form, at least up until 10 years ago, we hate them. Most people across the country, you flip the two states, they wouldn't even know. But that's what's fun about it. I mean, I do actually hate the Packers, but I wouldn't like hate them. I wouldn't like, firebomb their headquarters or something. It's not that level of hate, but I hate them on a sports level. Anyway, this is Friday, so it is supposed to be open line Friday, fan call Friday, phones fun and Fridays. So if you guys have any questions or comments in the meantime, let me know. DOD made it. Matt Quam made it. That's a familiar name from yesteryear. I said that last time, but what's up, dude? If you guys have any questions, let me know. Yeah, the Packers, I mean, obviously their record's a lot better than it was last year. Last year was the worst season of Aaron Rodgers' career, which is part of the reason why it's surprising to me that these guys are acting like I'm just making this up out of whole cloth, or just based on some bias. And because we lost to them earlier in the year, therefore this or that. Their season was a nightmare last year, and Rodgers played terribly, and he's just not, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence, if he's upset with some of the moves this team has made without consulting him, if he doesn't like some of the moves they're making on offense, the Kubiakian nature of it. You would think, though, like he would just be dropping dimes to Jimmy Graham all day and calling it a day. I don't know. He's got a good running game now. He's never really had that. Sure, there's not a lot of depth at the wide receiver position, but their tight ends are pretty good. The defense is young, but it's looking okay. Yeah, I don't know. He seems increasingly sardonic and just not happy. And he's the type of guy that seems to wear his emotions on his sleeve. You know, he always seems a little grumpy. But I really thought that maybe, how should I put this? I've always thought he was a diva. I've always thought that he was a whiner, so on and so forth. Kind of a jerk. I really don't like to talk about players' personal life, so I won't do that. But and in the chat, you guys can let me know if you agree with this. Let me know if you actually do agree with this or not. Because obviously there's bias there. But when he broke his collarbone, or rather, Anthony Barr broke his collarbone, and then he went on Conan O'Brien and basically like put Barr on blast. I thought that was such a low class move. I loved what Conan did. I thought that was hilarious. I thought him talking about bringing out the skeleton and then bringing out Bakhtiari and saying like, "Where were you at, man?" and so on and so forth. I mean, and Conan was just ripping him. It was on Clueless Gamer, which is one of the best like YouTube. Well, it's on his show, but it's one of the best things you'll find on YouTube. I just thought that was again such a classless move and such a whiny move, and he didn't really go too far into it, but he basically alluded to Barr hitting him late and then like slamming him into the ground. And it was the most routine tackle you will ever see. They hit each other, went to the ground, rolled over one another. Barr got up. I know Rodgers was mad that Barr didn't immediately offer to help him up, but when does that happen? I mean, it happens sometimes, but that rarely happens. That's like a norm in football. That when you hit a quarterback outside of the pocket, you have to help them up. Um, I know he talked about not on Conan, but outside of that, like when he was injured and he was looking across the field, he thought Barr would be like looking at him apologetically or with doe eyes, like an anime, like water welling up. And none of that happened. I get you're upset. You're Aaron Rodgers. You think he should have run over and pulled out some sort of cauterizing thing and injected it into your bones. But that's not. That doesn't mean it was a bad hit. I mean, the fact that he's going on this national show and onto a segment that's going to get tens of millions of views, and essentially calling Anthony Barr a dirty player is not only again like a low class move or a whiny move, but it's also like that can affect his sponsorships. He's aware of the power that he has. He's one of the biggest and brightest faces of the NFL, and to go on there and essentially call Anthony Barr a guy who is not a dirty player, who is a classy dude. He plays football the right way. He does everything the right way. And to muddy up his name like that on a talk show is just boo-hoo, dude. It's not his fault you have the rib cage of a bird or the clavicle of a bird. It's football, and you injured the other side as well. Maybe it's something with your anatomy more so than the fact that Barr just hit you, outside of the pocket where you're a runner and you guys just rolled over one another and it was over. He didn't drive you into the ground, any of it. So when he went on there and did that, I really thought he'd reached a new level of whininess and just Aaron Rodgers-ness. And it just seems like there's, stuff in his personal life, which again, I don't talk about a lot ever. That is kind of, I just don't know where he's at mentally with this team. He doesn't seem happy with what's going on. And I could be just looking for things. You know, I had mental health issues, and I've dealt with depression and anxiety, and I thought it was like amazing that Kevin Love came out and talked about that as an athlete, because we think of these guys as invincible supermen, and you don't think about all the pressure and the anxiety and all of it. A lot of these guys throw up before the games because of nerves and so on and so forth. I mean, I played high school hockey with Matt Quam. Who was here a minute ago, and I used to get so nervous on days before games that I would throw up sometimes. And that was high school. It was in inner city high school stuff too. We weren't playing in state anymore. And so, I mean, I get that aspect of it, but yeah, he just looks on the sidelines. He doesn't look happy. I mean, last year he broke that iPad or the tablet. A lot. I expected to maybe see him more engaged this year, less pouty because there's the new regime, so on and so forth. But that just hasn't been the case. King Keyshawn 911. Yeah, this I don't know when you asked that. You asked that at 15:19, so 3 minutes ago. So yeah, this is a live show. Try to go every day, stream every day, and read your questions every day. Ooh, financial liability to the team. Yeah, I just really foresee, if they are one and done, which I presume they will be, a rough offseason there. Obviously they're doing a lot of good things. There's a huge turnaround in regards to wins and losses, but I said this yesterday and I'll say it again. I would not be surprised if next year is the last year for Rodgers, assuming things continue the way they are right now. Since live show, I want your guys' take on something. I am in the championship of my fantasy football league for Purple PTSD and Vikings territory, and I don't want to leave anything to chance, even though there's a ton of chance in regards to football, fantasy football especially, because I want to win, damn it. But here is my options for. It's a standard league, scoring wise. We have 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, the flex being wide receiver, running back, tight end. Here's my running backs: Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, and Sony Michelle, who I won't play. For wide receivers, I have Cortland Sutton, A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Cooper Kupp, Julian Edelman, and Kenny Golladay. For tight end, I have George Kittle and Jared Cook. So obviously I'm going to start Aaron Jones and Saquon. The question is, should I start Mostert in the flex, or should I start one of these wide receivers who are, again, Cortland Sutton, A.J. Brown, who's been on a tear, Tyler Lockett, who seems to be back up to full strength, so I want to start him, Cooper Kupp, who hasn't had over 65 yards forever, so I probably won't start him, Julian Edelman, who's the main receiver on a team that's offense is terrible, or Kenny Golladay, who could be great, but they have undrafted rookie quarterback helming things. Then again, I could do Kittle and then Jared Cook as my flex, because he's put up some decent points in the games that these Saints have been really good. So I was thinking Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, and probably doing Raheem Mostert as the flex, and then Tyler Lockett and A.J. Brown as a wide receiver. I don't know. Let me know in the comments here or otherwise. But I will be back tomorrow. I'll do an open line show tomorrow as well. This is the first show that Tang didn't make, so I think we should send out a search party for him. Hashtag where's Tang? I'm a little concerned, not gonna lie. A little heartbroken as well. But my old bestie from high school showed up, and he agreed with me on football stuff, so that warms my heart. But I'll cut the show a little bit short today. If you guys could comment and let me know what you think I should do for my fantasy league, that would be great, because then I can blame you when I lose, because I'm going to lose. Probably by like a half a point, and I'll probably have like 200 points scored on my bench. Story of my life. But this has been Purple Update Live for the 20th of December. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everybody, and I'll be back tomorrow.